Original Songs and this is Why Does Britain Own Gibraltar? By the channel History Matters. So in 1704, Gibraltar has been Gibraltar. I guess you don't pronounce R, right? Gibraltar has been a tiny British overseas territory attached to the Spanish mainland, and despite its proximity to Spain, its size and the time that's passed in Spain has never managed to regain it. Yeah, that's the badass thing about it, right? I mean, it's touching the Spain, right? And yeah, British like, yeah, we're gonna keep it. What you gonna do about it? That's how badass British Navy was, right? So they can just, they can just defend it, even if it's basically other side of the Spain, right, from Britain. That's just fucking ridiculous. They have to go, they have to go all the way around from France, Spain, and then go to Gibraltar. And they're like, yeah, we can defend it, and they still have it. Obviously, anybody who has seen the map would know why they still have Gibraltar, right? This is a no-brainer thing. This is not even something they have to think about, because it protects. It basically is where the Gibraltar opening, is that what it's called, right? Basically access to Mediterranean, right? That's where you basically go to the Suez Canal. No, wait a minute. Yeah, that's where you go through the Suez Canal. I guess that is the name, right? If I don't, yeah. Yeah, Suez Canal. I had to look that up. I was mixing up with but that's Panama Canal. Yeah, Suez Canal. So this basically, it has access to the Suez Canal, which is kind of extremely important point for any kind of trading or anything, right? You want to travel through India, you need this place, right? So it's a gateway that it basically has access to. So no way in hell Britain would have given up then, and now even now today, they're now going to give it up, right? So that's why basically. So, but it's really awesome to see how Britain kept it all this time, right? And Spain couldn't take it back. I mean, British power was really powerful at one point. So that's what it.
The Iberian Peninsula is home to the lands of 5 countries: Andorra and France in the north, Portugal in the west, with Spain dominating the rest. Well, most of the rest, since country number 5, which sits in this tiny area in the south, is the United Kingdom. This territory is called Gibraltar, and despite numerous wars between the United Kingdom and Spain, Britain still holds the territory. Which raises the obvious question: why? Why does Britain own Gibraltar? So the first part of this question is, how did Britain get a hold of Gibraltar in the first place? Well, the answer to that is simple. In the year 1700, the King of Spain died. Now, normally, a king dying wouldn't be a problem, but this king, Charles II, didn't have any kids, which of course meant succession crisis. Charles chose Philippe of the House of Bourbon, and grandson of Louis XIV of France, to succeed him. This upset mostly everyone, since it placed Spain and its gargantuan empire firmly in the French sphere of influence, and so, of course, war. Everyone united against Spain and France, and in 1704...
Every other empire around the world, like, god damn it, and just stood up and took on their weapon. Like, the people can't even keep their shit in line. Why couldn't you have kids, basically, right? Why couldn't you have children? Now to create all this shit, French have too much power, now we have to do something about it. Where global politics was ridiculous, right? I mean, somebody doesn't have an heir. Now somebody, an heir who's basically French. That's it. Everything goes to shit.
English and Dutch soldiers landed in Gibraltar and seized it to keep the mouth of the Mediterranean open. In 1713, in return for Britain leaving the war immediately, Spain opted to cede Gibraltar to them forever. Gibraltar's original population had largely fled during the war, and it was stationed by British troops, and from then on acted as an important naval base whose population grew thereafter. So Britain now owned Gibraltar, but what stopped Spain from regaining it? It was a tiny stretch of land attached to the Spanish mainland, so surely it would have been simple to walk in and take it. Well, turns out, no. It wasn't long until Spain and Britain were back at war again, and despite laying siege to Gibraltar a further 2 times over the next 75 years, it always held out. The largest siege came during the American War for Independence, when Britain's attention was focused on those rascals. Spain, with the help of the French, laid siege to Gibraltar for 4 years, hoping to starve the people out. However, the British were able to resupply Gibraltar due to the size of their navy and Spain's issues maintaining its own. As you'll know, Britain lost the war as a whole, and so when both sides sat down to negotiate, why didn't Spain use the opportunity to regain Gibraltar? 1. Britain hadn't been conquered or crushed and could still fight, meaning Spain couldn't get everything it wanted, and 2. It had more important land to regain, notably Florida and also Minorca, both of which it got. When all of that was over in 1783, Spain never made another military attempt to retake the rock. So that's it all settled then, right? Well, no. The Spanish government always maintained a claim to Gibraltar, much of which was down to its geography.
Yeah, so basically, Gibraltar is part of Britain, sure, but Spain still has land there that access to the Mediterranean, right? So it's not like their access is cut off, right? Like how Russia has been faced throughout the years, especially during I think the Great Time, where Russia didn't have access to the Black Sea, I guess, right? So that's not the case here, right? They still have access right now. If they didn't have access, you could understand like they would fight back. Like Gibraltar basically has all the access, right? Another part of Spain doesn't touch the basically Mediterranean, port. What is it? Gibraltar Strait that is what it's called, right? If it was something like that, they would have fought back. Like this is a pretty important access, but they still have land there. Gibraltar doesn't take all the southern part of it, so that's why they fight when they had more important places to take. But yeah, this is so fucking. Even Napoleon couldn't fight back against Britain, basically in the naval warfare, right? So you could find out that even after losing, Spain's like, okay, let's not push our luck here, right? Because Britain can still, like, okay, this is too much, back to war again.
Geographic positioning at the mouth of the Mediterranean, and also because its continued loss was seen as a blight on Spain's national honour. For the next century and a half, though, very little changed with respect to Gibraltar. That was until 1936, when the Spanish Civil War broke out. The border was closed, mostly because of there being too many refugees trying to flee Spain, and Britain further built up Gibraltar's defences. This caused disputes with Spanish leadership, since previously there had been an agreed neutral zone between the two areas. However, Spain wasn't looking, and so Britain quickly built up an airfield there, which became useful when World War II broke out. Now, Spain's new leader, Francisco Franco, was clear that he wanted Gibraltar back. However, when he was offered the chance to get it back by joining the Axis in World War II with Germany, he declined. Franco said no because the positives didn't outweigh the negatives, and also...
Pros: get Gibraltar back. Make new friends along the way. Yeah, what friends, right? What an awesome friends. Cons: war, retaliatory bombings, yeah, naval blockades. Not to mention, depending on how much you pressed in or how much you help, basically Hitler at the point, how fucked up your country is going to be in the end.
And also his country was in ruins. In the post-war world, there was a big drive towards decolonisation, and Gibraltar was firmly in the crosshairs of this movement. A referendum was held in Gibraltar to determine whether the people wished to be a part of Spain or remain an overseas territory of the United Kingdom. And the results were extremely close, with over 99% of people opting to remain under the control of the United Kingdom. When Franco fought a mild case of death and his regime came to an end, relations between Britain and Spain improved, and after a series of negotiations, the border reopened. And despite the continuing dispute over the status of Gibraltar, there would be no further changes in its status, and to this day it remains a British overseas territory. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and thank you for watching, with a special thanks to my patrons, James Bizanet, Kelly...
Yeah, okay. Assume that British never came even close to giving up to Gibraltar, but they did held the referendum or whatever, and they actually told people to vote. So I'm guessing if the voting would have been like in favor of Spain, they would have basically given back, right, Gibraltar. I don't know. Even today, Gibraltar feels like a really key important point. It's like a port that has access to Mediterranean, which is extremely important. That's one of the most important passage, Suez Canal, right? And that gives it access to. But yeah. Right, people, that was the why does Britain own Gibraltar? Well, why did Britain kept Gibraltar? It's basically old British saying, right? I know it's your place, but now we have the place. No taxes back, so go fuck yourself. That's Britain's slogan all around. But yeah. All right, I'll see you next time.